All right. Hello, hello. Welcome to a new episode of Cloud Thoughts with my good friend here, DanceingEmber. Say hello.
Hello.
Uh,
I don't actually know what to call you on the show. What's
uh,
what's your show
I,
name?
I, Cloud or Dark Cloud, whichever. Uh, s- uh,
Oakley. Oakley?
Cloud or Dark Cloud. Uh, yeah,
O'Cloud.
sometimes uh, my co-host will call me my actual name, but it doesn't super matter. But yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Anyway,
I'll try and
all
manage with
right.
Cloud. Cloud, 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 cloud.
So today we will be talking about the show Phineas and Ferb. I thought about doing Avatar, but I wanted to do Phineas and Ferb because it's been on my mind a little bit more recently. Uh, me and Dancing Ember actually watched the show a lot together when it was coming out. Uh,
Yeah, I remember it was like a one of those things in the early days before binge watching was too popular, and it was around the time when binge watching started to come in, and we definitely
yeah,
did some
we
of that.
watched that. We also got together for the showing of the movie across Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. Uh, and so that was really fun. I remember you got the game before you saw the movie, and so you were like, "I think I know what's gonna happen, but I don't know." Uh, yeah,
Spoilers.
I think the game was a little bit different from the movie, so it wasn't too bad. Uh, but like, so I want to break this into sections where we talk about the Phineas and Ferb part, and then we talk about the Perry stuff separately. So like, if we don't jumble both of them, if that makes sense. Uh,
Yeah,
Probably should have
sure,
told you
sure.
that before the show, but
Let's do pre-show
yeah,
during the show, and our audience can come along for the
look
ride.
behind the curtain a little bit. Uh,
That's right. What curtain? There is no
no,
curtain.
so I watched a couple episodes recently in preparation for this recording. Uh, I watched like the first season and some of the second season, and I think one or two episodes from the third. 'Cause there are only four seasons, which is pretty good for a show. Uh, and like Disney still uses the characters. At least they still use Doofenshmirtz. They still use him. Yeah,
Really? I didn't
yeah,
know
they use
about
him
this.
in Miles Murphy's Law uh,
Huh.
as a character. That's pretty good. And the movie is a new movie's coming out. Uh, yeah, and
Really?
they're working on it right now. Uh, I know about this because on TikTok, the creator and voice of Doofenshmirtz is talking about it, and like will show him animating it because he also does a little bit of animating. Uh, and so like I'm very excited for that. It was supposed to come out in theaters, but you know, it can't.
Uh, the theaters do not
Yeah,
exist at this moment.
no theaters. But no, so I was watching the.
Well, I guess you and I have some future plans coming up then, if that's
Oh
going to
yeah,
be coming out.
definitely. Um, but so like I was watching the show, and one funny thing I never really thought about is like how unfazed Phineas is about anything. Like Candace will be like yelling at him about stuff, and he's just like totally straight faced, like happy all the time. It's just like,
Right.
well, what do you mean? Uh,
It's fascinating because I think that he's there's sort of a joke in their dynamic with the relationship where Phineas and Ferb are more grown up than
yeah,
Candace is. And so when she's throwing her temper tantrums and trying to bust them and what have you, I feel that Phineas and Ferb sort of just see past that and they're like, oh, she loves
yeah,
us.
exactly. Uh, I like the when I was younger, I didn't really like the fact that Ferb never spoke. But now that I'm a little older, I like it a little bit better because whenever there's a song that they do and like the people doing the song don't want to be represented in the show and stuff, they usually put Ferb as singing it, so that way like it looks like, oh, it's just Ferb's voice because we only hear him sometimes.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah, so it feels like a little treat anytime you get that little soundbite of Ferb chatting at all.
It's really good. A couple.
And also, my stepdad is Canadian, right? And got that sort of British aloofness about him. He's very logically minded. He's an introvert. He doesn't speak as much as perhaps other people might, or people in the United States might. And so when I see Ferb not talking, it reminds me of my stepdad.
There are a few episodes that stick in my head. There's also scenes that I don't exactly know what episode they're from that stick in my head too. But an episode that's I think about often is the Beak episode, because it's just like, it's like, oh, let's be a superhero for today. That will be fun. And then they're really good about being like, oh wait, superheroes have responsibilities. Oh, and it like actually gets to both of them pretty hard. They're like, oh, now we have this responsibility to keep being the Beak because of a supervillain.
Right. What monstrosity have we released that we must now deal with?
So like, which is really funny. The Beak gets brought back like I think once or twice, for a gag or for that one scene in Cross Second Dimension at the end, and so like, which is really interesting. So that episode sticks out a lot. Candace busting the kids episode. I just watched that again recently, and that one's really funny.
Which one was
it's
that?
The episode where Candace finally busts the boys, and like, so they get sent to a school to destroy creativity in children, and of course Baljeet is right there. And he's just like super enthusiastic because he just loves school.
Right.
In the beginning, he's just like, well, I was in summer school, but my grades are so good they kicked me out. So now I'm here doing this. School is school. Because that's just his character.
And of course, Baljeet would be a perfect fit for something like that. And of course, he would be entirely happy with that.
And like, it's a really fun episode of like, of Candace like being like, oh, okay, what do I do now that I don't have the boys around? And then it does a montage of her doing all the things with her friends, Jeremy, and her other friend. I can't quite remember her name right now. But like her best friend, the best friend character to Candace, and like my favorite part of the episode is like they're on the couch, and then the best friend character's like, "Hey, I'm bored. You want to just go horse riding again?" And in my mind, I'm like, so you guys just have access to like horse riding and paragliding just whenever you want. Did you pay like? Right. Do you pay for it? Is it just something that your town offers? Because
secretly their families are incredibly rich, and that's how Phineas and Ferb. It's not just creativity; like they've just got ridiculous finances backing them. And their parents are so rich they don't recognize hundreds of thousands of dollars getting spent on ridiculous contraptions.
Because there's the running joke of the like, aren't you too old? Aren't you a little too young for this? Like,
yes,
yeah,
yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And like they have seats on the city council in that episode. They like talk about it, and like yeah, we swap out like with two other people, and we're only really there to make final decisions, which I think is really funny. Just like everyone in town.
Now you were mentioning the busting episode. There's another one that I just watched. Actually, that's what I was doing before we started the podcast, and why I was so late in the afternoon. I was like, I haven't watched Phineas and Ferb in multiple years. Let's at least catch up a little bit before we go and talk about it on a podcast. And so one of the ones that I watched was another one where Candace is actually able to bust the boys. And in this episode, they've created a little hopping machine. It looks like a UFO, but all it does is hop into the air. And she brings her mom out from the house, and the episode's setting it up like the same thing as always is going to happen. It's like the machine's just sitting there on the grass. They've primed it. It's ready to jump. Candace is like, Mom! And you hear Mom like rustling around in the back, and then you see the machine sort of shaking a little bit. It's getting ready to jump. And then this time, Mom comes out, sees the machine, and is like, oh my God, what is that? And Candace is like, huzzah! And then the machine bounces off, and she's like, where's it going? And of course, she's all sorts of concerned, and this is the moment where you're like, what? This doesn't happen. The boys always get away with it. But in this very same episode, you have Perry the Platypus, who has gone to build, or to stop Doofenshmirtz from building a Forget-A-Nator. And of course, the Forget-A-Nator hits Mom multiple times every time the jumping device comes back down. So you have this like quadruple take of Mom seeing it, recognizing it, being like, that's crazy, and then the machine zapping away her memory and completely forgetting before Candace has to leave and go back to a date with Jeremy, and the mom forgets about it once more while it's still in the air and leaves.
There's some really good in the episode where like they get caught that I'm talking about. They like build a giant machine in the back that's a landing pad for their car that they made fly, and it's like the car of the future today is what they call it the whole time. And like she's like, what are you doing? I didn't say you could do this. You didn't get permission from me. Permission? Like, oh, what? We got the permits. So they hold up permit papers for it. And she's like, no, you didn't get my permission. And she's like, yeah, we did. We asked you if we can make a flying car. And she's like, I thought you meant the toy car. Well,
little did we know that Phineas is actually Elon Musk in this world.
Because, man, whatever grade they're in, move them to college. Cause
yes. move them to CEO of all the companies.
That's just what they do. Because, like, they're just smart in all fields because they build so many random things. The theme song is forever embedded into my head. Just because of how many times I've seen the show and just didn't want to skip the theme song. And also Netflix, when I was binging it, was before Netflix had the skip intro button. And sometimes the internet wouldn't be good enough to skip the theme song, and like it wouldn't load for like 5 minutes. So I'm like, I'll just let it go. And so
yeah, right. Just easier to just let it be.
But so that's what I would do. And so like when I was watching it the other day, I was just like, man, I know all the words to this song. No,
are you going to sing it for us?
Get Disney to be upset with me.
Someone's singing our song. Free publicity. I'm upset.
Hey, you can't sing the song.
One of the things that I watched, let's see, an episode from season 1, and then I think one from season 3, and then one from season 4, and I really want to know how much time was between 3 and 4, because I know that the reason that I stopped watching it in the first place was that season 4 didn't show up on Netflix for more than 2 years, and so I just lost hope and forgot about it and went on to other things. But it then came back at some point. Of course, it's not there anymore, thanks to Disney Plus having all of the Disney. But the theme song in season 4 shifts a little bit because it's winter break, and so instead of it's 104 days of summer, it's 14 days of winter vacation. And I just like that it's sort of emblematic of the show as a whole, where they always have a very distinct structure, and they spend a lot of season one just getting you to understand the structure and doing it over and over and over again, so you know what to expect in every episode. And then they just start tweaking and playing with little different things to push that little novelty button in your brain that's like, yay, something new. Ooh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Let me see more. It's really
There are,
quite
like,
clever.
most of the episodes, like a good chunk, are in the backyard and like the normal formula. And then there's like stuff where like the parents like, we're gonna go on a trip somewhere. It,
Right.
Or they're yeah.
We're gonna go to Rushmountmore or Mount Rushmore. Sorry, my dad was in a band,
Yeah.
so I reversed the names because that was the
Yeah.
name of the band. That's irrelevant.
Or they'll
Continue.
make at the park, which is a pretty frequent setting, or hiking and things like that. So sometimes it'll be a little bit different. So like they do good with that. It also plays with time a little bit because there are Halloween episodes that just jump to Halloween time in the future. So like, so like times like because the last couple of episodes I know are still in the backyard formula, and so like sometimes like winter break, that's just in the future when winter break is happening. And we just gotta pretend like everything that we've seen has already just happened already, and the things we haven't seen are just happening. I know the last season had trouble finishing, because they wanted to give a conclusive ending, so they made a episode about them in the future and like what Isabella and Phineas actually becoming a couple, and like. And the realization of it when Phineas like realizes it was just like, oh, man, what?
I would love to see that episode because I've never ever seen that. I've seen very little of season 4, right? Just like I think the first episode. So I'd love to see that episode.
They're like, oh, this is supposed to be the last episode, but the fans are like, no, we want an actual last episode. So the final episode is like a normal episode about summer ending and things like that. And the last shot of the show is like they hang on the backyard for a second, and Phineas like opens the door and waves goodbye and then closes it, and then like it just ends right there. And I was like, oh, like I got shivers just thinking about it because of how awesome that little thing is. And then it went silent for years after that. The creators would talk about it here and there. I think they moved on to Miles Murphy, which has been riddled with airing issues, actually. But
now so is Miles Murphy then made by the same?
I think it's either the same people or at least one of them, because it's the same animation style. And like I said, Doofenshmirtz is in it, and there's a crossover episode that I haven't seen with Phineas and Ferb and Miles Murphy. Yeah,
have fun.
which I know like took forever to get out because I watch other people's cartoon videos and they were talking about it and being like, it should air this sometime soon, and like. I forget why, but the schedule is all weird with Miles Murphy for a little while. And then now we get the movie that's coming out soon.
Now, is this the Miles Murphy movie or the Phineas and Ferb movie?
Candace something. I don't remember the name. But it seems to be pretty interesting. And so I just can't wait for more Phineas and Ferb because I love those boys.
I wonder if they'll ever do like a Rugrats all grown up for Phineas and Ferb. It's just, what do they look like in college? Because I can only imagine the kind of hijinks that like Phineas and Ferb are like the Weasley twins from Harry Potter, right? You just know they'd get up to all sorts of crazy mischief, but they'd also be super entrepreneurial and you can't help but love them.
They've done a couple time travel episodes as well. of like Phineas and Ferb going into the future to see their future stuff and like their future selves and their future Candace's future kids that she has with Jeremy and things like that. And it like follows the same formula of like the Candace's kids get into trouble and they have like two sons and a daughter, and the daughter's always trying to bust them, and now Candace is the one not believing.
Oh, yeah, right. She's just somehow forgotten her entire like half of her life, quarter of her life
of trauma. Because sometimes they play off her never catching and busting them as actual trauma sometimes, which is really funny. They like to play around with Candace a lot. Like the Kevin stuff, that's really weird. The zebra that calls her Kevin. And
oh wow, I forgot about the zebra.
I don't even remember. Yeah,
the floating baby head.
Like they do a lot of stuff about that. They have also said that they regret stating that they would do a song in every single episode, just because like it's really hard to write songs for every episode of a kid show.
Right, especially when one episode is actually two episodes. That was something I forgot as I came back into it. I was like, wow, this feels like it's going really fast. And then it ended. I'm like, oh, because, right.
Kid shows used to be split up into two halves. I remember that. A lot of shows don't do that format anymore. A lot of shows are doing like 30-minute or 25, or some do just straight up 11. I think regular show had 11-minute episodes.
Wait, did it used to be normal to just have the two episodes
that used
in one
to be
episode?
how like Kids Next Door did that. I think Ed and Eddie also did that sometimes, but I haven't seen an episode of Ed and Eddie in a little bit. Yeah.
Man, I remember when I was a itty bitty child, all like 8 years or whatever, and we had cable television for the first time. It was one of the best years or however long we had it of my life, because I got to see all the cartoons, and Cartoon Network was a channel, of course, at this point. And so you could just go and watch Scooby-Doo or whatever else you wanted to, and child brain really liked that. But then came one day, the worst day of my child life, when it was announced to me that we were going to drop cable TV to save money and focus on more important things in our life. Yeah. And I was very sad, and I cried, because there went my fair Cartoon
I was
Network.
actually the same. When I moved to Eugene, I lost... I was in Salem. I lived in Salem for a long time, and then I moved to Eugene. And, like, in Salem, it was my time for cartoons and TV. And then I moved to Eugene, and it's like, yeah, we don't have it. And then I was like, no! And then, like, a year later, like, we have it again. I'm like, yeah, but now I'm a teenager and would rather spend time in my room instead of downstairs in the living room watching cartoons.
Yeah. I have to spend all my time upstairs in my room watching cartoons now.
But I feel very lucky because we came at the end of the time where they were still showing like really old cartoons, be it like Dexter and Bugs Bunny and Johnny Bravo and stuff was still like sometimes on the channel, and then they eventually phased them out. That's why you don't see them nowadays. Sometimes I think they do like the new show of Looney Tunes, but I doubt you'll see like classic Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network unless they like carve out a day for it.
They still do Boomerang.
Yeah,
do you remember Boomerang
like,
at all?
Kicks around still, but it's like it's a paid for channel now. It's like a special.
Oh, but Cloud, it's all coming back to you. Boomerang.
I was really excited because They originally were just gonna phase all the classic cartoons that we grew up with and put them all on Boomerang. That way, like, it'd be like each time a show gets phased out, it will be put on there as like a classic show. But then they stopped doing that, and now I don't even know what Boomerang is anymore. They changed the logo for it, I believe.
I'll have to go and look all these things. I feel so disconnected from modern cartoon culture because I know a lot of my friends have seen this stuff, but I haven't really watched television in a long time outside of Netflix, which I think is sort of the go-to thing nowadays with the advent of streaming technology.
I've had the opposite problem of like, wow, I'm keeping up with all these shows and I feel good, but I haven't watched Netflix, and then the other night I was like, oh, a new season of F is for Family came on. I didn't realize this, and I watched it. Like, Netflix is very useful for binging just because you can just play it and you don't even have to touch it until it's like, hey, are you still watching this?
Right, and in some cases it even learns, like, if you want to skip the intros, because if you do it enough, it just starts skipping them automatically. So if you set it up right, show ends, 5 seconds, you're into the next one, skips the intro, boom. It's like, okay, I guess I'll watch another 40 minutes of television. Oops, what happened to my night?
Now? What? It's like, I very much like watching whole seasons of shows, but like, for like cartoons, especially stuff that airs, I have to do episode by episode, especially with Cartoon Network, because they're, no shade, but the airing schedule's real bad about the cartoons people actually want to see. It's theorized that Steven Universe would have ended like almost a year ago if they would have just aired the episodes, because they like to like, oh no, we're just gonna hold on to them for a bit and then air them in like a big batch and then hold on to them more.
It's kind of fascinating too, because that's sort of expected behavior for Netflix, right? When like you just hold on until everything's ready and then boom, you release it all at once. So it's fascinating that similar behavior is being seen in Cartoon Network. I haven't seen Cartoon Network in ages, so I barely know what I'm talking about. But based on what you're saying,
it does it with the shows that are like not always most popular, but shows that people want to see or interested in. They like seem to do that for some reason. So the next part is talking about the second half of the show, since the show always had a A plot and a B plot. A plot was what Phineas and Ferb were doing, and B plot is always what Perry is doing. Hey, where's Perry? Which is always creative and always fun because it's a different exit out of the house, which is a really good gag that they like also got really tired of doing, but still really enjoyed doing it. Because that's you had to really flex your creative muscles there to every episode have them leave a different way.
and the classic "Where's Perry" line.
And sometimes they'll like play it off like, "Hey, where's Perry?" And then be, "Oh, there he is," like still there.
Right.
I really love I love those segments sometimes the most, just because like Doofenshmirtz is a really good character, and like it's very interesting because he's so good, because even though his like guy that he works off of doesn't speak, because Perry doesn't speak words, it's all like facial like emotions with Perry.
Right. And they do such a lovely job of conveying the character's both evil intentions, but also his like kind-hearted care for the people around him, where you know, like he wants to be a good dad, and he's really fond of Perry, even though they're supposed to be, nemeses and what have you. He really enjoys having Perry around to talk to. He's probably pretty lonely, and so it's really, really cute to see that
Yeah.
contrast in character. It's like, oh, you're such a bad person,
Yeah.
aren't you?
Like
Aw.
there'd be times where like Perry's fighting somebody else, and then like different spurts will walk in. You're like, oh, Perry the platypus, how could you?
I also like watching them play with the formula there too. Like I watched an episode in my recap, and in this episode, okay, so in most episodes, there's a pretty typical formula, which is where's Perry? Oh, there's Perry, or where's Perry? Cut to Perry doing Perry things. Perry shows up at Doofenshmirtz after receiving some briefing about his ridiculous plans, buying 3,000 light bulbs, whatever it is for that particular episode, and Perry just goes to the tower that Doofenshmirtz owns, shows up, gets trapped, and then breaks out of the trap, fights with Doofenshmirtz, blows up the thing, and gets home in some ridiculous way. And usually the Inator plays into the A plot line too, and that's typically the formula. But they really, really like to play with this formula, especially after the first season, once they've got that sort of set in stone. It's like, here's what to expect. Now we're going to screw with you guys. And so there was one episode where Phineas and Ferb, what they're going to do for the day is watch grass grow. And everyone's very concerned for them because normally they've got ridiculous ideas. And you see Perry sort of, when somebody says, wow, it's almost like they've been struck by a boringinator or something. And you see Perry like go freeze for a second and then sort of waddle backwards out of the situation. And Perry goes to Doofenshmirtz because he had remembered that the last thing that he'd fought Doofenshmirtz over was a boringinator. And so he comes back and actually starts to rebuild the Inator, and it becomes this sort of little bonding moment, and Doofenshmirtz is like, oh, you had a change of heart. Ooh. And they build a dynamic Inator to try and bring their creativity back. It's, just these little twists on the formula that always make me want to see what they'll do next.
They actually revealed recently how Doofenshmirtz knows Perry's name because Perry doesn't speak. Apparently, like the first time they like Perry thwarted him, Alka came and like told him what his name was and stuff. I know Alka is a acronym, but I don't remember the acronym.
Organization without a cool acronym.
How could I forget that? That's good. It's like muffin. Love muffin.
Love muffin.
League of Villains. God, I don't remember the whole thing. I'm bad with acronyms apparently.
You've got to look it up. You've got to look it up. That's right. I also, as you're looking this up, I'll entertain our audience. I also really enjoy just how, like, everybody that Perry works with is pretty much incompetent, and not in a mean way.
Yeah.
But, you know, like the general guy, he's often talking about tacos or something ridiculous, and his companion, who's probably more intelligent than he is always getting the short end of the stick and kind of goofing around together. And then Doofenshmirtz is just ridiculous and always failing to do his things. Meanwhile, Perry's like hyper competent and able to do things, though he always gets trapped, which is kind of funny. So it shows you that there's moments of brilliance in Doofenshmirtz. Like, he could be capable of more if his heart was really in it. But again, he really likes having the camaraderie with the people around him. And it's fascinating to see all those different relationships surrounding Perry. And then you've got actually Phineas and Ferb, who are some of the most intelligent people in the show. And it must have rubbed off on Perry.
Okay, so I found the wiki. Okay, so Love Muffin, full name, the League of Villainous Evildoers Maniacally United for Fighting in Investments in Naughtiness? Frightened, yeah. A League of Villainous Evildoers Maniacally United for Frightening Investments in Naughtiness.
Yes, classic. Obviously needed to be named Love Muffin. You just have to wonder how they came to that while writing the show. Like, did they just have a contest and threw up on a whiteboard? Like, what's the most ridiculous name we could give the evil organization? And they just played with that until they came up with, it'd be funny,
Yeah.
love muffin, and then just came up with some ridiculous acronym to fit. Like, I kind of think that's how it went down.
It's really funny. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm scrolling through the wiki and there's pictures. There's the time that Love Muffin and Alka reserved the same meeting room.
Oh, right.
Oh man, I really love that. Like, they tried to do a spinoff once where like Doofenshmirtz becomes a part of Alka because he was raised by ocelots. So which technically means he's an animal. So like there's an episode in season 4 of him like training at Alka. Ultimately, nothing came of it just because I guess no one bought into it. But that was indeed an idea that was being tossed around.
I have to wonder because it sounds like season 4 really takes the playing with the formula to the next level because, it would have come when the fans had gone for years and years and years without having a new episode. So to have this episode come back for the fans and then to just really pay homage to that and to have that would just be so completely entertaining. It's like what we've come to know and love.
Exactly. It's really good. The show is just like I really love this show a lot. It's really clever and it's really funny. Luckily, I was old enough at the time to get most of the adults. They're not adult jokes, but some of them. But some of the jokes that would have flown by my head as a kid when I was seeing it. And I wasn't into writing as much as I am now, but I was a little bit into it, so I was very happy to watch that show because the comedy is just really good in it. It's a really funny show.
It really is. And I was just reading about Seinfeld and how he likes to challenge himself to do hilarious things that don't involve, the easy things that a lot of comedians go for because it's harder, but it's also entertaining in a completely different way. It's a different kind of art. And I think that's one of the things that makes Phineas and Ferb so special as a TV show is that it's not even just for kids. Like, we're teenagers and loving this show. My mom loves this show. It's just, it's funny no matter what age range you find yourself in. And that's, I think, a real testament to the quality what they've pulled off.
No, one of the jokes that has forever stuck in my mind for no reason is like everyone, the whole cast is hiking up a hill and it has an echo in Buford, who I love, by the way. I love that character. Is just like hiking up, and he's like, look, there's an echo. Hello, and says hello, 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 wombat. Guess my echo must be broken. It's like, what do you mean?
I think the same thing happens in that. I think in that episode, the same thing happens to Doofenshmirtz, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and he gets very confused.
Like, the echo must be broken. I'm like, how does that work? How's an echo break? Like,
you just need to reboot it.
That, for some reason, I loved that joke. That joke is really good. I think they did a really good job at making a lot of the side characters also have partners, like characters where like Buford and Baljeet were like the two characters that were like buddy characters. It started out as like a bully nerd relationship and it blossomed into this weird friendship. That's just really funny. Isabel like has her troupe, I guess. I don't know if she has like another person that she talks to besides Phineas because she loves Phineas. It's very obvious. And like Candace has her best friend and things like that. So there's always like a bunch of things to bounce off of. Even like Doofenshmirtz has like Norm, later on in the show, which I totally forgot about him for a while,
Right.
if I'm honest. But
And and Brainiac Kid friend too. Not for Doofenshmirtz, but for Phineas and Ferb. You remember?
no, who's that?
They get a new companion who's the sort of, he's like even nerdier than Baljeet, and I believe really into science, if I recall correctly. I don't remember when he shows up, but he was in one of the season 4 episodes that I watched. I don't even remember his name. But he showed up. I'm like, who's that? Right, I forgot about this
No, I
character
don't. I have
entirely.
to see a picture to like remember him.
Yeah, he shows up somewhere in the middle of the series. I don't remember when, and it's just like a new permanent addition to
That
the
must have
cast.
been like a Disney like wanting another character type of deal, just because I feel like that must be it. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like it is just because like how great the cast already is, uh, and like this character comes in that I don't remember at all. He could have been one of those people that just comes sometimes, not all the time, because Buford and Baljeet weren't always there. Isabella was usually there because like there's the running gag of "What you doing?"
Right.
and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, and one of the things I appreciate about all of the relationships in the show is that it takes a lot of what would typically be conflict-driven relationships. You know, like the sister-brother dynamic, the villain-hero dynamic, and the bully and nerd dynamic that you were mentioning, and makes them really friendly. Also, like you were saying, it's just it does this in many aspects of the show to make these situations that we have all experienced in life at some point or another, or seen at least, and turns them into something fond, something that's delightful. It shows you the delight inside of these things, and I think that's
yeah, I
a
mean, of
nice
course,
gift to
like
give.
Buford will still like do like bully things, but like is usually in like a good spirit type of thing. Uh, it's just because that's what he's made to do, bully. But well, I was talking about in the beginning how like Phineas is like this straight guy that like is really optimistic, really happy, and like nothing breaks him. But like there are like 2, 3 times in the show I can remember when he just gets angry, and it's really like weird when it happens. Just because you're like, whoa, you good, Phineas? Uh, One time would be the the Beak episode. Actually, I believe is like the first time he gets a little riled up. Um, and then there's one of the like specials. They get stuck on an island, and he gets mad because he can't figure out a way off the island safely. And so every time that happens, I'm just like, "Whoa, Phineas, chill out. You're all good."
Yeah, it's so discordant. It's so different than what we're used to and expect with the character. So whenever it happens, it really sticks out
I'm
and
actually
sticks with us.
surprised. There might have been an episode this happened in, but I can't remember where like Phineas and Ferb would get into a fight because I feel like that would be an episode about that. I'm surprised if there's not. I'm surprised, but if there is, then I just don't remember it. But because that would be a way to throw off the show a little bit. But then again, maybe that's predictable. But I don't know.
It'd also be interesting to see how you fight someone who doesn't speak that much. I do know that one of the Star Wars specials, Ferb is Vader and Phineas is Luke
Yeah,
Skywalker,
that's
so they do
true.
fight then.
Because they like their Star Wars references. Uh, a lot of shows at the time were doing a lot of Star Wars references actually.
Well, it helps that Disney
Yeah.
bought Star Wars.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun and creative episodes, and there are some episodes that like are pretty like, oh, I guess that was an episode. Uh, Unfortunately, I did watch one of those when I was binge watching, not binge watching, but rewatching for the show, and like it was an episode where like they accidentally create a gelatin monster because they like fill up a pool of
Uh,
jelly and jump on it, and then Doofenshmirtz accidentally hits it with an evil inator, and like and it turns like a Jello monster, and like the Doofenshmirtz part is really funny and has some really good jokes in it, but the A plot isn't very good. It like oh, we need to like spray down the monster with water to make it not be a monster anymore, and Candace got eaten by the monster, so we gotta spray it, and that's when they decide to do the song, is when they're spraying down the monster, and it's just like a shots of them like spraying a monster with water, and after like the third shot, you're like, okay, I get it, but they have to fill in that runtime. Uh, yeah,
sure, and it it's it can sort of get away with it too because you've got the double episode thing going on, but also it allows those episodes that screw with the formula in interesting ways to stick out even more, to have ones that are a little more
yeah.
normal feeling, right? It also lets other plots shine depending on what else is
Sometimes they
going on
do
in the
like
show.
full 22-minute episodes. I think that's usually reserved when they have like a really good idea that they want to do the whole episode about, that they know they can. Like the episode I talked to you about, Candace busting the boys, was a full 22. Just because like they had a
Oh,
really good idea, and they like knew what to do with it. Um,
right. Yeah, 12 minutes, it's hard to fit something into that's cohesive and entertaining. So the fact that they do it over and over and
but
over again
writing
is no small
songs each
feat.
episode, making sure Perry gets out in a unique way. Uh, Not to mention making an inator for Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Uh,
That also somehow
to make
ties
the
into the A
thing
plot.
disappear. I like how Candace thinks it's some like mysterious force that takes it away.
Right,
I
she's like
think the
haunted or
best
something.
songs for me were in the movie, the Second Dimension movie. Uh, there were some really good ones I really liked. Robot Riot at the end is really funny. Um, it's a really good song, and like I like that. I really like that movie. I like how Norm is just like the evil Doofenshmirtz, or the more evil one, makes like a thousand Norm robots, and like they look really intimidating, but switches heads to like the normal Norm like head. Uh, it's like there's a certain point where like they bring him muffins at a certain time, and like
Wait,
yeah,
wait, Cloud, where they love muffins?
maybe, and like it's like, oh man, I don't like this this muffin. And then like he eats the muffin, and then like it's muffin time, sir. It's like, no, it just happened. And then he says it again. He's like, you're broken, and throws a muffin at him, and then leaves. And then you just see a bunch of them start coming at him with muffins, and it just cuts. Uh,
I'll have to watch the movie again sometime. I don't remember hardly anything that happens in that. I do remember that. What's her name? What was the scout's
the
name again?
scout.
Yeah, Phineas's
Oh,
non-love relationship.
Isabella.
Isabella. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that she's like this secret agent in the dystopian world, but that's
Yeah.
about the extent of what I remember
I
from that
remember
movie.
Phineas and Ferb finding out that Perry's a secret agent, and I
Oh,
remember
right.
some of the songs too. The opening song, "Better with the Platypus." Uh, um, I know I don't remember the name of it, but the song with Doofenshmirtz and his doppelganger, and how they're best friends until they're not best friends. I like how evil Doofenshmirtz is evil backstory, like scarring backstory, is that he when he was a little boy, he loved his choo-choo train, and then he lost it, and that is why he's evil.
I forgot the backstories are so good. They're just so good. You know, the monologuing villain has the sad backstory, but they're always in this case set in the reminds me of like feudal Germany or something.
It's very
like
they make it very vague on where like he's from, but like he's like, I was abandoned. My parents didn't show up to my own birth. I was raised by ocelots, central wildcats. My dad made me be a lawn gnome. Like like just random things like that. One of the episodes I watched was like he had a headache, but but still wanted to do his thing, and like his backstory was just like, all right, so I built a machine made with birds that will target this machine with of a man with a beard of our 45th and a half president, something like that. And the reason why is because he could not grow a beard and hates people with beards. And he's like, oh, my head hurts, so I'm just going to yada, yada, yada. So I resent people, yada, yada, yada. In nader time. And like, it actually like lets Perry out of the cage. Like, can you just walk with me? I don't want to, my head hurts. It's implied that he was partying the night before and was drinking, so he's hungover. It's like it's really funny. I like it when Doofenshmirtz just doesn't actually care. He's just doing it to do it, and he's like, it's over now. I'm gonna go lay down.
It's just it's plot filling. Here you go.
And
that was good stuff.
There are probably some really good ones I just don't remember, because like there are a lot of episodes, and stuff. But one cool thing they did, was that it's canon that at some point, Dr. Doofenshmirtz stops being evil and starts teaching kids, about science and stuff, and guess what he does in Miles Murphy's Law? He's a science teacher.
Whoa! I really have to see episodes from the show.
Miles Murphy is pretty funny. It deals with a kid that like, for some reason is surrounded by Miles Murphy's Law, which is if anything can go wrong, will go wrong. So like, he like,
oh no,
breaks his arm constantly and have stuff fall on him, and like, so he's just really good at dodging things at this point. And like, anytime they do something, his friends are like, I don't know, because if anyone around him also gets hurt from his thing, and so
right, yeah, you wouldn't want to hang around a gigantic dark
like,
force
his
of
friends
doom.
like Milo, but also just like are very careful. Like, it's pretty funny because it's like, oh, let's go ride the train, and they're like, I don't know.
Let me think of at least 20 possible ways that could go terribly, terribly wrong.
So I haven't watched up till Doofenshmirtz shows up yet, but I want to. It's also on Disney Plus, and like, but there's actually a story that happens in it, that like apparently is really good. So, but I haven't seen it yet. But I've seen a couple episodes.
Which show
there's
was
a
this,
story
sorry?
in Miles Murphy's Law apparently. Yeah, that involves time travel and stuff. They riff on Doctor Who pretty hard in one episode.
So you get the telephone.
No, it's more
booth and
like
all?
they create their own wacky time travel character, and like, and like, there's a whole episode about them going to see the movie of it, and like, of the character, and then it's like, there's people making theories and stuff about the show, and they riff on that a little bit. But apparently the characters that like are the time travel characters that's played as a show are actually real characters in that show up later and stuff. And like apparently there's some really cool things that happen in it that I have not seen yet, but I've heard good things about. So at some point, when I'm not sleeping on it, I will watch it. I have a lot of shows that I'm watching right now. So like I'm watching the Harley Quinn show. I'm watching. Yeah,
Harley Quinn.
It's adult, but it's real good. It's an animated TV show, kind of in the style of the old Batman show that came out, but in like more cleaned up and a little more modern looking, and it's really good. They have some really good stuff in it. Of course, since it's about a villain, there's a lot of like cursing and a lot of violence, but they have some really fun stuff and a lot of good like, hey, am I actually a bad guy or am I doing this just because this is all I know how to do kind of thing.
Sure. I just recently watched Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn
don't tell me I haven't seen
live action movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I need to watch
thoroughly
that
enjoyed that one.
Nah, not yet.
You haven't seen it yet?
I'm just very weary of
Yes, make sure to
DC
change that.
For a good reason.
It's a fun movie. It's really well done. It's not like the best movie I've ever seen, but it is very good. And also, I respect Margot Robbie like crazy because I didn't realize that she was Harley Quinn until somebody told me. And so anytime an actor is like, wait, that's that person, I give them
that's good
mad respect.
Yeah, Harley Quinn's been showing her own a lot lately just because she's a popular character, and honestly the Harley Quinn show is actually really good, and like I like the version of the character a lot. It's more of like an independent person, like independent woman kind of thing, but like also like has friends and like finding out how to be herself when she's been with the Joker so long that she doesn't know who she is anymore. And like it doesn't
right. This sounds a lot like
it doesn't
the
turn
live action
away
movie.
from like the darker parts of like that, what that relationship would have entailed, and things like that. A lot of psychological stuff because she's a therapist. Because Harley Quinn is a doctor therapist. Like she has a doctorate in it and everything. And sometimes like she'll be looking in a mirror and like the doctor version of her will be talking to her and psychoanalyzing herself. Like, hey, so what if what you're saying was being told to you as a doctor? He's like, oh, then this and this, and she's like, see? And he's like, oh, you're right. You also see her parents.
That would be. I really, really want to watch this
her
show.
Parents show up
this sounds
at
very
one point,
fascinating.
and that's interesting. Yeah, but so yeah,
I gotta go make some food here, friend.
Okay, so
we should wrap this up.
In the end, I would like to say that Phineas and Ferb is a really good show, and if anyone out there hasn't given it a shot yet, it's all out. So go and watch. Just like enjoy it because it's really good.
Yeah, there's few shows that I think are as witty and clever and delightful.
Yeah, it will
all
make
at
you
once.
laugh. It will like be really enjoyable to watch. If you like are interested in TV from a writing standpoint as well, I'd suggest this show because it does a lot of interesting writing things in it. From everyone from the supporting characters to the main characters, there's like a lot of stuff we didn't even talk about. So there's a lot to love about this show. And in the end, I would like to say, this is the end of the video. So if you guys want to like, comment, and subscribe, please do so. I try to release episodes frequently. In next episode will be Avatar, because I promised I would do that. So, goodbye, everybody. Bye.
Ta-ta.